Have you ever considered how seemingly small morning habits could carry significant risks to our health, especially as we age? Today, we'll explore this through the story of Mr. Hope, a 70-year-old gentleman who lived a peaceful life in the countryside. Like many of us, he took pride in maintaining a healthy routine, starting each day with light exercise and lovingly tending to his garden. However, one calm morning, while immersed in the serenity of his garden, Mr. Hope suddenly collapsed. His story serves as a sobering reminder that even when we feel we're doing everything right, hidden dangers can still lurk in our daily habits. In this video, we'll highlight 3 critical morning habits that older adults should avoid immediately after waking up to protect their health and well-being. These simple, yet impactful changes could help you or your loved ones reduce serious health risks, enhancing the quality and longevity of life. Stick with us until the end, because these small adjustments might just make a life-changing difference for someone you care about. Before we dive into the details, we would really appreciate your support. Please give this video a thumbs up, as your encouragement helps us continue sharing valuable health tips for older adults. If you haven't done so already, consider subscribing to the channel and turning on the notification bell so you'll always be alerted to new videos. We value your input, so if you're enjoying the content, leave a comment with the number 1. If there's anything you think could be improved, feel free to leave a 0. Your feedback is what helps us create better content tailored to your needs. Now let's get started with today's important topic. Today we come together to share the story of Mr. Hope, a 70-year-old man who led a peaceful life in a rural community. Like many older adults, Mr. Hope was careful about his health. Each morning he would rise early, eager to start his day with exercise before heading to his cherished vegetable garden, a place that brought him immense joy and pride. His family took comfort in knowing that his routine was filled with healthy habits, believing that these actions were helping him maintain his well-being. But then, one calm morning, something tragic happened. While tending to his garden, Mr. Hope suddenly collapsed. He had suffered a stroke. This heartbreaking event serves as a powerful reminder for all of us to reflect on the choices we make for our health, especially as we age. Even when we think we're doing everything right, there are certain morning routines that can carry hidden risks, especially for older adults. It's crucial that we become aware of these potential dangers and make simple but effective changes to protect ourselves and our loved ones. Today, we'll discuss 3 important habits that seniors should avoid immediately after waking up. These small adjustments can play a major role in preventing health crises like strokes and fostering long-term wellness. Let's explore how we can adopt these practices to create safer and healthier mornings. The first and most important change is to avoid exerting ourselves on an empty stomach. For older adults, one of the key lessons is to never start your day with strenuous physical activity before eating. After hours of sleep, our bodies are in a state of recovery, and they aren't yet prepared for the demands of intense exercise or heavy tasks. Skipping breakfast and jumping straight into activities, whether it's gardening, exercising, or lifting something heavy, can put unnecessary stress on the heart and body. When we wake up, our energy stores are depleted and the body needs fuel to function properly. Without the proper nutrition, engaging in intense physical activity can lead to a sudden spike in heart rate and blood pressure. This can be especially dangerous for older adults whose cardiovascular systems may no longer be as strong or resilient as they once were. Additionally, it's important to understand that the body naturally releases adrenaline upon waking. which helps kickstart the cardiovascular and nervous systems. While this is a normal part of waking up, it also causes blood pressure to rise, and combining that with physical exertion on an empty stomach can increase the risk of stroke by causing plaques in the blood vessels to rupture. So what should we do instead? The key is to start the day gently. Begin with light stretching or low-impact activities to warm up the body before diving into anything more demanding. And most importantly, make sure to have a light, nutritious breakfast before engaging in any strenuous tasks. Foods like fruits, oatmeal, or a small portion of protein can provide the energy your body needs to start the day strong. Gentle exercises like walking or Tai Chi are also excellent choices for older adults, as they support cardiovascular health without putting unnecessary strain on the heart. The second important thing to avoid upon waking is standing up too quickly. While it may seem like a minor detail, getting out of bed immediately after the alarm rings can be risky, especially for older adults. During sleep, our bodies are in a state of rest. Heart rates are lower, blood pressure decreases, and many of our bodily functions slow down. Upon waking, our bodies need time to transition back to an active state. If we stand up too quickly, the body might not have enough time to adjust, which can result in dizziness, loss of balance, or even fainting. This is particularly concerning for the elderly, whose cardiovascular and nervous systems are often less adaptable than they used to be. Rapid movements upon waking can trigger something known as postural hypotension, a sudden drop in blood pressure that causes lightheadedness or fainting. To prevent this, it's crucial that we move gradually when getting out of bed. Let us tell you a story. Once upon a time in a quiet neighborhood, there lived a retired school teacher named Mr. Simmons. At 70 years old, Mr. Simmons was known for his bright smile and enthusiastic approach to life. Every morning, he would wake up at the crack of dawn, excited to tackle the day's adventures. However, he had a habit that was about to catch up with him. One bright Wednesday morning, the sun streamed through his bedroom window, and Mr. Simmons woke up to the cheerful chirping of birds. He felt energized and ready to dive into his plans: grocery shopping, volunteering at the local library, and maybe even taking a stroll in the park. Without thinking, he leaped out of bed as soon as his alarm rang, eager to start his day. But this time, as soon as his feet hit the floor, he felt an unsettling wave of dizziness wash over him. The room began to tilt, and his heart raced. Before he knew it, he stumbled and barely caught himself against the dresser. "Whoa, what just happened?" he murmured, confusion clouding his mind. Sitting back on the edge of the bed, Mr. Simmons took a moment to catch his breath. He realized he had been standing up too quickly, a habit he'd never considered dangerous before. He thought back to the times he had seen his fellow retirees taking things a bit more slowly. Maybe they were onto something, he mused. Later that day, while volunteering at the library, Mr. Simmons met up with his friend, Mrs. Johnson. She was an old colleague and a retired nurse, and they enjoyed sharing stories and laughter over their love for books. As they sat at a small table, Mr. Simmons recounted his morning mishap. "I felt like a rag doll," he chuckled nervously. "One moment I was standing tall, and the next I was on the verge of falling." Mrs. Johnson listened intently and smiled gently. "You know, Mr. Simmons, as we age, our bodies sometimes need a little more time to adjust when we wake up. That sudden dizziness you experienced is quite common. It's called postural hypotension, and it can happen when you stand up too quickly." Curious, Mr. Simmons leaned in. "What should I do differently?" "Simple," she replied. "When you wake up, take a moment to lie still and let your body wake up with you. Stretch your arms and legs gently while lying there, then sit up slowly. Once you're sitting, give yourself a minute before standing up fully. Trust me, it'll make a world of difference. Inspired by her advice, Mr. Simmons vowed to change his morning routine. The next morning, he woke up and followed Mrs. Johnson's tips to the letter. Instead of jumping out of bed, he lay still for a minute, appreciating the morning light and the calmness of the moment. He stretched gently and then sat up slowly, taking a few deep breaths. After a minute, he stood up carefully, feeling steady and strong. From that day forward, Mr. Smalley Simmons made this mindful approach a part of his daily routine. No more dizzy spells or near falls. He enjoyed his mornings more, feeling grounded and ready to embrace whatever the day had in store for him. He even shared his newfound wisdom with his friends at the community center, helping others learn how to start their days safely. And so Mr. Simmons continued to brighten the world around him, one thoughtful morning at a time. When we wake up, it's helpful to take a minute or two to remain still, allowing our bodies to slowly wake up along with us. Gentle stretching while still lying down helps stimulate circulation, making it easier for the body to transition from rest to activity. Slowly move your arms, legs, and neck, and once you feel ready, sit up carefully. Pause for a moment while seated on the edge of the bed to further stabilize your body. Only then should we proceed to stand up fully. This gentle, mindful approach gives our bodies the necessary time to adjust to changes in blood pressure and balance, minimizing the risk of falls or injuries, particularly in older individuals. By taking these few extra moments, we can start the day safely and protect our overall well-being. A key point to keep in mind is avoiding excessive straining during bowel movements, a habit that may seem harmless but can lead to serious health issues, especially for older adults. This is particularly important in the morning, when many of us feel the urge to use the bathroom after a night of digestion. However, forcing ourselves to go or straining too hard can result in harmful consequences. When we strain excessively, the pressure inside the chest increases, which reduces the amount of blood returning to the heart. As a result, less oxygenated blood reaches the brain, potentially causing dizziness, sudden spikes in blood pressure, or even fainting. For older adults with more fragile cardiovascular systems, this can increase the risk of heart attacks or strokes. Health is not just the greatest asset for each of us individually, but a profound blessing for our entire family. When one of our elders falls ill, it sends ripples through the lives of everyone connected. We find ourselves reshaping our routines and priorities, as family members often need to pause their personal and professional lives to care for their loved ones. This situation can introduce significant emotional strain, as well as financial challenges that stretch the resources of the entire family. That's why it becomes crucial to recognize that maintaining our health over the years is not just an act of personal self-care, but a valuable gift to those we love. When elderly family members remain healthy, they become pillars of strength and stability. Their continued well-being allows them to participate fully in family life, offering guidance, support, and wisdom. They inspire younger generations with their vitality and resilience, serving as living examples of how a life well cared for enriches everyone. Proactive health management is the key to ensuring that we age gracefully, staying physically and mentally strong for our families. This involves more than simply reacting to illness when it strikes. It's about adopting a preventative approach, ensuring we eat balanced, nutritious meals, stay active through regular exercise, and make routine health checkups a priority. These steps allow us to live with a sense of independence, free from the shackles of chronic illness, while also giving peace of mind to our loved ones. When we commit to maintaining our health, we are not just preserving our own quality of life, but contributing to the overall well-being of our family. Our efforts ripple outward, creating a legacy of love, care, and resilience that helps to strengthen family bonds across generations. The fourth value that plays a significant role in family health and well-being is the concept of filial piety, a principle that is deeply cherished in many Eastern cultures. Filial piety goes beyond merely being a dutiful child or taking care of our elders when they fall ill. It is an expression of deep emotional attachment, profound respect, and a sense of responsibility toward our parents and ancestors. Filial piety encapsulates the very essence of familial love, emphasizing the importance of maintaining strong, respectful relationships within the family unit. It includes treating our elders with kindness, compassion, and honor, as well as fostering a culture of mutual respect that strengthens the family from within. When older generations live in a way that embodies filial piety, they set the tone for the rest of the family, modeling behavior that younger members can follow. They create an environment where respect, kindness, and responsibility are the cornerstones of daily interactions. In doing so, they ensure that the younger generation understands the importance of their role within the family, not just toward their parents, but toward the family as a whole. This cultivation of responsibility and empathy within the family teaches children how to extend those values beyond the home, contributing to a more compassionate society. Though financial assets may provide temporary relief during challenging times, they are not the foundation for lasting happiness or prosperity. Instead, it is the transmission of moral values, the emphasis on health, and the ingrained sense of responsibility to care for one another that leaves a lasting impact. These are the true legacies that we pass down, shaping future generations with wisdom and love. As we grow older, our responsibility is not only to care for ourselves, but to also instill these timeless values in our children and grandchildren, helping them to navigate life with empathy, resilience, and respect. In prioritizing our health, we also nurture the family spirit. When we take care of ourselves, we create a ripple effect, uplifting those around us. This dedication to wellness becomes a collective act of love and support, helping our family members to thrive emotionally, spiritually, and even financially. We are setting an example of what it means to value life in its entirety, not just in terms of wealth, but in terms of happiness, strength, and compassion. Our elders in particular play a unique role in preserving the continuity of these values. They serve as living reminders of the strength that comes from good health and strong moral foundations. Their ability to continue contributing to family life in meaningful ways, whether through advice, care, or just being present, keeps the family unified. This role cannot be overstated, for it is through the healthy aging of our elders that we witness the true meaning of resilience, love, and stability. The more we focus on preserving our health as we age, the more we enable the continuity of these priceless contributions to family life. As we commit to fostering health within ourselves and encouraging our loved ones to do the same, we find that our family becomes a stronger, more resilient unit. The shared responsibility of looking after our well-being turns into a collective legacy, one that can be passed down to future generations. Health is the foundation upon which we can build lasting happiness and security, not just for ourselves, but for those we love the most. We must remember that life's greatest gifts are often not material. The wealth of health, The wisdom passed down through generations and the love and care we give to one another form the bedrock of true prosperity. These are the gifts that endure long after the financial assets have been spent, helping to ensure the well-being of future generations. Let us take this moment to reflect on the immense value of health, love, and respect within our families. If you're still with us, comment number 1 and let us know that these values resonate with you. Your time, your thoughts, and your commitment to fostering health and happiness within your family mean the world to us. As we age, the dynamics of our relationships often shift in ways we hadn't anticipated. In our younger years, we tend to overlook certain quirks or habits in our partners, perhaps brushing them off as endearing or insignificant. But as time passes, what once seemed minor can grow into a source of frustration. Many women, particularly after reaching their 60s, find themselves feeling a growing emotional distance from their husbands. The connection that was once strong may begin to fray, leaving us feeling as if we're carrying the weight of family responsibilities alone, even though we're still married. In the early years of marriage, the small annoyances, like forgetting to help with chores or leaving items around the house, may have seemed easy to dismiss. We had boundless energy, a sense of optimism, and a deep tolerance for each other's flaws. But as the decades pass, that same energy wanes, and what used to feel trivial can now feel overwhelming. Our emotional and physical reserves aren't what they once were, and we may begin to notice things we once ignored or tolerated with greater intensity. The simple act of seeing our husbands relax while we juggle household responsibilities, manage grandchildren, or care for other family members can lead to a sense of exhaustion and perhaps even resentment. It's as if we're carrying the mental and emotional load on our own, while our partners seem more detached, wrapped up in their own routines. This disconnection doesn't appear overnight. It builds slowly over years, often without us even realizing it, until the emotional gap feels too wide to bridge. What makes this even more difficult is the contrast between what we envision for our later years and the reality we face. Many of us entered marriage with dreams of growing old together, imagining a time when the challenges of raising a family and building a life would give way to shared relaxation and mutual support. We thought we'd face these later years as a team, enjoying the fruits of our labor and leaning on each other through the challenges of aging. But for many women, that dream feels distant as we grow older and find ourselves managing the practical and emotional needs of our families with little involvement from our husbands. This discrepancy between our expectations and reality can create a deep sense of disappointment. We gave so much of ourselves over the years, our time, our energy, our personal ambitions, only to feel as though our efforts went unnoticed or unappreciated. When our partners withdraw emotionally or fail to contribute in meaningful ways, it can feel like a betrayal of the partnership we thought we had. The emotional exhaustion that follows isn't just about the tasks we take on, but about the lack of emotional reciprocity and support. As this sense of disappointment grows, so does the emotional distance. We may start to question the connection we once had, wondering where the closeness went and if it can ever be restored. The cumulative effect of years of unmet expectations, responsibilities shouldered alone, and the absence of true partnership can leave us feeling isolated, even when we're still living together. This emotional isolation isn't the result of one moment, but rather the slow buildup of countless moments where we felt unsupported, unseen, or undervalued. What complicates this further is the realization that our husbands may not even be aware of the extent of our frustration. They might not fully grasp how much we've been carrying or understand the toll it's taken on us. This lack of awareness can deepen the divide, as we feel even more disconnected from the person who was supposed to be our closest companion. The silence between us grows, not necessarily out of anger, but from an overwhelming sense of emotional exhaustion. As we reflect on our relationships, we may start to wonder whether this emotional distance is simply a natural part of aging, or if there's more at play. Is it that our husbands have become indifferent, or have we changed as well? Perhaps it's a combination of both. Over the years we've evolved, our needs have shifted, and the dynamics of the relationship have transformed. The things that once brought us joy or satisfaction no longer do, and we may find ourselves questioning whether we're still fulfilled in this partnership. Many women in this stage of life start to reevaluate their marriages, not necessarily with the intention of leaving, but in an effort to understand how the relationship has changed and whether it can be revitalized. We might consider whether there's a path to reconnecting emotionally, whether through open communication or seeking outside help, such as counseling. For some, the idea of working on the marriage feels like a possibility. For others, it might seem too late, as the emotional gap feels too vast to close. It's important to recognize that this emotional distance doesn't reflect a failure on our part. We have given so much over the years, our time, our energy, and our love. The distance we feel is often the result of an accumulation of small moments where we needed support and didn't receive it. These moments add up, creating a sense of emotional fatigue that can't easily be erased. But acknowledging this reality can be the first step toward understanding what we need moving forward, whether that's within the relationship or outside of it. We may also find that, in this phase of life, it's essential to prioritize our own well-being. For years, we may have placed the needs of our family, our children, and our husbands above our own. But as we age, it becomes increasingly important to nurture ourselves emotionally, mentally, and physically. This might mean finding fulfillment in other areas of our lives, whether through friendships, hobbies, or personal growth. It doesn't mean we're giving up on the relationship, but rather that we're choosing to invest in ourselves in ways that can bring us joy and satisfaction. Another significant factor that contributes to the growing distance in marriages, particularly as we age, is the shift in health and lifestyle habits. Health becomes a central concern in our later years, and when our husbands maintain unhealthy routines, it places immense strain on the relationship. Many men, despite experiencing declining health, continue to engage in harmful behaviors like smoking or excessive drinking, or they neglect the importance of regular physical activity. This not only jeopardizes their own well-being, but also deeply affects us, their partners. When they smoke heavily, for example, we're not only concerned about their health, but also the impact on our own, knowing full well the dangers of secondhand smoke. Each time they fall ill due to these poor lifestyle choices, it's an added layer of worry and frustration for us, making us feel more like caretakers than partners in equal footing. We often find ourselves bearing the brunt of this situation, shouldering the responsibility of caring for them while managing our own health and the demands of daily life. It becomes exhausting, particularly when we reach a stage where mutual care and support should be the norm. Their disregard for their own health can feel careless, even selfish, and this lack of accountability leads to growing resentment. The weight of this burden is not just physical, but emotional as well. It feels like we are constantly dealing with problems that could have been avoided if there had been a shared commitment to healthy living and mutual respect. Their unhealthy habits extend beyond the personal impact. It affects the entire household. For example, the hours they spend sitting in front of the television or mindlessly scrolling through their phones, disengaged from family life, can make us feel incredibly isolated. Even though we are physically present together in the same home, the emotional connection weakens. We find ourselves carrying the weight of household chores, cleaning, cooking, taking care of the grandchildren, while they seem to drift further away, detached and uninvolved. It's as if we are managing everything on our own, while they become a mere presence in the house, rather than a true partner sharing in life's responsibilities. This sense of disconnection grows deeper with every passing day. Even minor health issues like loud snoring or persistent coughing become significant irritants that gnaw at our patience. Sleep becomes disturbed, and with it our ability to cope with daily stresses. The lack of basic hygiene or failure to address seemingly small health concerns can feel like a neglect of our shared space. What once might have been small annoyances now become major sources of tension, slowly eroding the intimacy and comfort that once defined our relationship. The home, which should be a sanctuary of togetherness, begins to feel burdensome, and we start to wonder whether the companionship we once had has been replaced by an exhausting sense of responsibility. The growing frustration does not necessarily mean that we have fallen out of love or that we no longer care for our husbands. Rather, these feelings are the natural outcome of unmet expectations and long-standing irritations that have compounded over time. As we move through the later stages of life, the nature of our marriage evolves. The early days of romantic passion give way to a need for deep mutual understanding, support, and care. But when one partner consistently fails to meet these fundamental needs, choosing unhealthy habits over shared well-being, the relationship inevitably suffers. What we desire most in our later years is not grand gestures or material comforts, but a genuine sense of emotional connection, companionship, and understanding. We yearn for someone to share in the daily rhythms of life, to be a true partner who values our health and well-being as much as their own. When this emotional support is absent, when the effort to be attentive and caring fades, the distance between us grows wider. The small acts of neglect, the lack of interest in maintaining one's health, and the indifference to shared responsibilities can create a chasm that feels impossible to bridge. This growing gap doesn't happen overnight. It is the result of years of neglect, both of self and of the relationship. The disappointment we feel isn't just about their behavior in the present, it's about the cumulative impact of years of unhealthy choices and the emotional toll that takes on the partnership. We are left yearning for the closeness we once shared, for the days when our connection was built on mutual care and respect. Instead, we find ourselves facing an emotional divide that feels more daunting with each passing day. Yet these feelings of frustration and disappointment are not a reflection of the absence of love. They are a call for change, a plea for our partners to recognize the importance of their own well-being and how deeply it affects the entire family. We are not asking for perfection, but for effort, for a willingness to acknowledge the strain that unhealthy habits place on both the individual and the relationship. We need them to understand that their choices don't just affect their own lives, they affect ours as well. What we seek is balance. We want to feel like partners again, to share in the joys and challenges of life without feeling like we are carrying the bulk of the burden. We desire a sense of togetherness where health and well-being are prioritized, not just for the individual, but for the sake of the relationship. When this balance is restored, when both partners are equally invested in caring for themselves and each other, the distance begins to shrink. Many of us notice a deepening sense of disconnection in our relationships, especially between husbands and wives. It's not uncommon for older women to feel emotionally distant from their husbands, with the resentment building as empathy and mutual care seem to fade. Over time, health and lifestyle choices start to play a crucial role in shaping the emotional atmosphere of our marriages. When husbands continue to engage in unhealthy habits like smoking, drinking, or neglecting their well-being, they may not realize the far-reaching impact these choices have. What begins as a personal decision turns into a burden that affects the entire family. We are left to shoulder not only our own health concerns, but the growing stress of worrying about a partner who isn't prioritizing their health. The ripple effect of poor health habits is real and often unspoken. For instance, the stress of secondhand smoke, the emotional toll of seeing a loved one disregard their health, and the effects of a sedentary lifestyle all create an emotional strain. These factors don't just affect our husbands. They add a layer of pressure on us, their wives. We find ourselves in a constant state of concern, managing our own well-being while trying to care for a spouse who may not recognize the consequences of their actions. This added emotional load can be exhausting and may contribute to a sense of being unsupported in the relationship. The growing emotional distance is often worsened by a lack of engagement in daily life. When our husbands spend hours in front of the television, immersed in their phones, or generally disconnected from the responsibilities of family life, it intensifies the feelings of loneliness. We find ourselves managing the household, often single-handedly, while yearning for a sense of partnership that seems to have slipped away. The lack of meaningful interaction can make us feel like we're alone, even though we are physically together. This sense of isolation is not just emotional. It's deeply felt in the routines of everyday life. As we age, physical discomforts also come into play, further complicating the emotional landscape. Snoring, chronic coughing, or poor hygiene, issues that might have seemed minor in earlier years, now feel magnified. These physical challenges can make sharing a living space more difficult and erode the intimacy that once came naturally. Over time, the combination of emotional and physical distance can make it feel like the closeness we once enjoyed is a distant memory, replaced by the frustrations and realities of aging. However, friends, we must acknowledge that the nature of marriage evolves as we grow older. It is no longer solely about romance and attraction. It becomes about companionship, understanding, and mutual support. As our husbands' health and lifestyle habits shift, and as the gap between our expectations and the realities of life widens, it's natural for there to be growing pains in our relationships. But it's also crucial to recognize that both partners need to make the effort to bridge the emotional gap. It takes active listening, empathy, and a genuine commitment to caring for one another in meaningful ways. Only through this intentional effort can we find a path back to a deeper connection. As we step back and reflect on this journey of aging together, we see both the challenges and the opportunities that arise. While it's undeniable that the physical and emotional hurdles of aging can strain a relationship, they also offer a chance for growth. This stage of life presents an opportunity to redefine what it means to support each other, to find new ways to connect, and to build on the foundations of our relationship. The daily habits we choose, the values we hold, and the ways in which we show up for one another all contribute to shaping the legacy we leave behind. Health plays a central role in that legacy. By committing to taking care of our health, both for ourselves and for each other, we can build a stronger foundation for our marriage. But it doesn't stop there. Fostering respect and being truly present in each other's lives is equally important. These small, intentional actions extend beyond our marriage, influencing our families and the generations that follow. When we make the choice to prioritize these values, we not only strengthen our relationship with our spouse, but also enhance the bonds with our children, grandchildren, and wider community. The complexities of aging, while difficult, don't have to erode the love and connection we share with our spouses. With patience, understanding, and open communication, we can navigate this stage of life in a way that brings us closer, rather than driving us apart. By embracing the small moments of connection and actively working to bridge the emotional gaps, we can create a relationship that remains strong, supportive, and loving, even in our later years. If you found meaning in this discussion, we encourage you to share your thoughts and experiences. We all stand to learn from one another, and by fostering open conversations, we can continue to grow in our relationships. Let's use our collective wisdom to face the challenges of aging with grace, finding new ways to support and care for our spouses, and ultimately leaving a legacy of love and strength for our families.